the woman who claims to have had a 12-year affair with Bill Clinton. She went public with her story earlier this year. This radio program, to my knowledge, has been the only radio program who has played the tapes of her conversations. And to my knowledge, this is the only program that doesn't talk about her alleged affair with Bill Clinton. She is now profiled in the December issue of Penthouse magazine. Gennifer, why did you go public?
Well, that's a long story, Bob. It happened, several months ago. There had been a lawsuit filed in Arkansas by a former state employee alleging that he was not fired for the reasons that Bill gave, but that he knew of a slush fund that Bill had set up to spend on women. And then a press release occurred as a result of that lawsuit, and in that press release, 5 women were named as to allegedly having a relationship with Bill Clinton. My name was on that list. At the time it happened, they did not make a big deal of it around the state. It was sort of pushed to the side, a little fourth of a column done in the local paper. Bill then decides to run for the President of the United States. I, in the meantime, have taken a state job that he got me, and then all of the national media attention came to him, to Little Rock. They found the lawsuit and the press release, and they began to pursue it. Thus, then, eventually the Star comes to town. They get pictures of photographs of all the women, and they decide that, they put out an issue on the lawsuit, and they did show pictures and name all the women in it. And that's just sort of a brief synopsis. There were a lot more things going on in my life. I was working for the state, a job which he had gotten me. There had been a grievance filed as a result of my getting that position by a lady who had been there for a number of years, felt she was more qualified. There had been a grievance hearing. She had won the grievance. It had been overturned by the head of the agency of whom he had appointed, which I knew would come up again after this first Star article appeared. I had been asked to not come back to singing jobs because I was being pursued by the media. And, someone had gotten in my apartment and gone through all of my things. I didn't know who that was. I didn't know who to trust anymore. I had received threatening phone calls, and so had my mother. So that's basically what happened, and the reason that I decided that I needed to tell the story, stop lying, tell the story, and hopefully, tell the story like it really was. I didn't want it battered around by the press back and forth. I knew it would be impossible for me to continue on in that state job or even live in Little Rock. So I made the decision to tell the story to the Star, and I brought forward at that time my tapes to legitimize my story. They asked me if I had any proof of what I was saying, and I said, well, that I had made some tapes, and that's how the tapes got involved in it.
I know Dick Kaplan. I've known him for many years. I think he is an honorable man.
I agree with you, and I want to make this point about the Star and Dick Kaplan and the Star reporter. They have been the only media organization that has gone to extreme lengths to tell this story accurately and tell it like it is. I'm forever grateful to them for that, and I resent when I hear people put down the Star or put down the tabloids. I can tell you they have done a heck of a lot better job of it than the mainstream press out here or even the national network programs.
Well, Dick assured me he would have taken the story, never would have gone public like this if he didn't believe you, if he didn't know that you had substantial proof. And I can't stress enough to the public the high regard I have for Dick Kaplan, but what frustrates me, and I can imagine how it must frustrate you, is other people in the media keep saying Gennifer Flowers' alleged relationship. Heck, we played the tapes. That was no alleged relationship.
Well, and those tapes were actually taped after I had ended the physical relationship with Bill. So, I obviously was not trying to lead him into a sexual conversation whatsoever. I was just merely talking on the phone with the man. I could have tried to do that if that had been my motivation, but I didn't. And let me say this, please, that those tapes have been verified by Truth Verification Laboratories in New York as never having been tampered with or edited in any way. And I have heard that over and over again from the Democratic Party and various other sources. Those tapes have not been tampered with or edited, and I have that in writing from the laboratory.
You know, it's curious. Prior to Bill Clinton actually getting the nomination during the early days of the Democrat primary, I heard a lot of rumblings from people who said, yeah, well, we don't take Clinton too seriously because the guy's a womanizer. He's got a lot of skeletons in his closet. The character issue would kill him. Then he gets the nomination. Now everybody's saying, it's alleged. It's alleged. It doesn't matter. Gennifer Flowers is a liar and so forth.
Bob, I'm the only one. They're calling me a pathological liar, and I'm the only one that's brought forth any proof of the story.
Well,
That's what I find extremely amusing.
Well, Betsy Wright certainly doesn't pull her punches where you're concerned.
Well, Betsy Wright, like many others, are still participating in a cover-up. Betsy knew of it was my opinion that Betsy knew of my relationship with Bill.
What about Hillary?
If you were Betsy Wright, I'd call her Betsy wrong at this point. I mean, what would you do?
Do you think Hillary knew about the relationship?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. She was not kind to me when I would be at various functions where she was, and unless she had her suspicions about Bill and I, there would have been no reason for her to treat me that way.
I have a theory that if he doesn't win the election within 3 to 6 months after being defeated, she'll divorce him.
I think exactly the same thing. Well, it will be interesting to see if what we predict comes true.
Now, the election is Tuesday. You're out there in California. You're registered back in Arkansas?
I sure am, and I voted, Bob, before I left because I was concerned that I might not be back on Election Day.
You want to tell us who you voted for?
I voted for Ross Perot.
Okay. I knew that in advance, but I asked you anyway because I wondered what you would say on the telephone. You had that conversation about Mario Cuomo.
Yeah.
And you're right. He does sound like a tough guy, or as Bill Clinton said, a tough SOB. He is a tough guy. But what's interesting is first there was a denial. I don't know if you're aware of this. There was a denial.
I heard that. He was saying, that's not me on the tapes, but I'm sorry I said that about Mario Cuomo.
Right. Then he apologized. That's right.
Well, and I did apologize as well because I don't know Mario Cuomo, and after all this came to light, I'd heard some very good things about the man, and I felt badly for having said it and then had it, heard across the country.
All right, here's what we've been playing. I want you to know that because the rest of the media has shied away from this, I've tried to take up the slack, and we played this every day for months now.
Are you talking about the tape?
Yeah.
Can I tell you something interesting about that?
Sure.
I had decided that I needed to run the tapes on a 900 number so that the American public could hear them for themselves and come to their own conclusions. Here they are, listen to them. If you still think I'm a bad girl, fine. And if you have other opinions, fine. AT&T and MCI turned me down for political reasons. And they freely admitted that they were afraid of Democratic legislation against them for having done this.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and that really disappointed me in that, this is supposed to be a free country.
Well, supposedly.
And it is, for the most part. But, I mean, the Democrats have been very successful at shutting those efforts down.
All right, here's what the people couldn't hear because they wouldn't let you go through with that. But we played this excerpt. I'd like to get your reaction to this.
Okay.
Well, I don't particularly care for Cuomo's demeanor.
Boy, he is so aggressive.
Well, he seems like he could get real mean.
Mean something different.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't have some mafioso major connections.
Well, he acts like one.
Yeah.
All right, that's...
Now, I ask you, would you share those opinions with someone that you barely knew? I mean, really, that's what amazes me. I mean, if I was a casual acquaintance of Bill's, he would not have shared something like that. That kind of an opinion with me in the longest day of his life.
And then the other conversation that we played, he was telling you that he kept trying to get you and kept trying to get you.
And he says that I always called him.
Yeah, but...
And I did call him several times. I mean,
okay.
there came a point in this deal where we were calling each other back and forth a lot because so much was going on.
Yeah.
And I was trying to keep him posted on what could be potential problems.
All right, let's listen to this, see what your comment is about this conversation.
Hello.
Gennifer?
Yes.
Bill Clinton.
Hi, Bill.
Hey, I tried to call you. I can't believe I got you.
Well, when did you try to call me?
Last night, late.
Well, I was here.
Did you take your phone off the hook?
Well, I did. I've been getting some hang-up calls.
Oh.
And at one point, I took my phone. I didn't take it off the hook. I just
Turned it off?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what it was. I started calling as soon as I got home last night, and I called for a couple of hours.
Well, sorry I missed you.
Well, anyway, I'm glad I was afraid I'd screwed up the number or something. I kept calling.
Well, you got a cold?
Yeah. It's just every year about this time, my sinuses go bananas.
Yeah, me
Never
too.
been in this stupid airplane too. I'm okay.
Well, good.
All right, now, that conversation is not a conversation a man would have with a woman that he didn't know very, very well.
You don't think you would discuss his sinuses with someone he didn't know well?
And the way he said he'd been trying to get a hold of you, and,
Right.
And you called him Bill. He was the governor of the state.
Well, and I've had people say, well, why did he say, if you know him so well, why did he say Bill Clinton instead of this is Bill? I did not find that odd at all. I mean, when I would call him, sometimes I would say, this is Gennifer Flowers. I mean, we tried to let each other know right away who was on the phone.
Well, not only that.
And Bill is a common name. We were just trying to clarify very quickly who was on the telephone so that we could proceed with our conversation. I didn't find that odd at all when he said this is Bill Clinton.
Well, politicians do give their full name. I notice that's a trait they have. Also, a woman called one day saying that she didn't believe you really had an intimate relationship with him because you didn't know about his allergy.
Well, I found that a little odd when he said that every time at this time of the year I have this allergy problem. And I thought to myself, I don't remember that. But let me make something also clear to you, that there were periods of time when maybe Bill and I didn't see each other, but maybe a couple of times in that year. And I assure you that we didn't spend our time talking about his sinuses. So, I mean, it just wasn't something that had been a priority in our lives. I didn't see Bill every day of every week.
What do you say to those, Gennifer, what do you say to those people who say you've been doing all of this just for the money?
Well, I would say that that's not true. And I have brought forth, I've told my story. I've brought forth proof of my story. I've been through a lot. You couldn't pay me enough for all the stress and the tension that I've suffered and my family has suffered as a result of this. I really have been the victim in this to a big degree. Now, I realize that I have to pay the consequences for having had a relationship with a married man. But I never set myself up as a Mother Teresa figure either. I'm not running for the presidency of the United States. I'm a nightclub singer. What I have done in terms of money is simply try to survive. I lost the ability to earn my living on the same basis that I used to. I had lost a state job. I had been asked not to come back to my singing jobs. I knew I was going to have to leave the state. I was going to have to start anew someplace. And very frankly, after the Star articles that I did, I had no idea that it would get this kind of attention. And let me make another point to you. I have been invited for months now by most of the major news organizations, talk shows, radio shows to come on and talk about this. I have not. You haven't heard from me until I decided to do the Penthouse article and pictorial because I considered that, like a lot of former Miss Americas, by the way, and other actresses and entertainers do, as a stepping stone in their career. That's why I decided to do Penthouse. I had no control over when the magazine would come out.
Well, as a matter of fact, the magazine was supposed to have been the November issue, but apparently Bob Guccione didn't want to hurt Bill Clinton too much.
Well, he's been covering his political ass. That's what he's been doing, and I did not okay that article. I was supposed to be able to go back and review it and so forth, and I was not invited back to do that. So I consider the biggest portion of that malicious, opportunistic gossip I invited the interviewer to check out those sources, check out their credibility. I brought forth people that had known me for years. I am the only one, Bob, that's got any proof of anything.
Yeah.
So you can imagine that it's very frustrating for me. And all I can say is that I hope to God if something good can come of this to me and my family, then great. I have no problem with that.
All right. One final question, Gennifer Flowers. What's your next step? What are you going to do with the rest of your life?
Well, I hope to get it on track and get it back to normal. I'm working on an album. I want to continue on with my entertainment career like I have been for 22 years. Whatever comes up, whatever offer comes up that's good, hopefully I'll have the opportunity to do.
Oh, I was going to say just a personal note, but there's been a lot of personal notes here. I finally read the article in Penthouse.
Mm-hmm.
Did you really do all those things?
With Bill?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I did. But now, I think that there are a number of people out there that have had some exciting relationships that could probably relate to some of those things. We didn't do anything weird.
No, you didn't.
We
you didn't do
did
anything
some
weird.
pretty standard fun things that people do together.
No, I'm not saying this disapproving. I'm just maybe you ought to teach a course.
Well, no, I'm not that big an expert, even though it sounds different in that article.
Thank you for coming to the telephone. Good luck.
Listen, thank you so much for having me.
That's Gennifer Flowers on the line on WABC.